Namaskar. Welcome to another episode of India International. Just before we recorded this particular episode, there was a news item about the Foreign Minister of India and the Foreign Minister of China having reached a plan of disengagement along the line of control. Both these foreign ministers met each other on the sidelines of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization meet, where the foreign ministers of all the member countries were meeting. Yesterday, or rather late last night, S. Jaishankar, who is the Foreign Minister of India, and Wang Yi, who is the Foreign Minister of China, met post dinner, and the meeting is believed to have gone on for more than 90-95 minutes, and the two leaders have reached a sort of a plan on how to disengage across the LAC. It is believed that these two leaders have reached something called a 5-point agenda, and in this 5-point agenda, they seem to have emphasized things like emphasizing the previous agreements for peace and tranquility. There are several protocols on how to control the behavior of the Indian and the Chinese sides on both sides of the LAC, and to abide by all the previous agreements that have been signed by these two countries. In addition to that, there is an emphasis on confidence building measures. The Ministry of External Affairs has brought out the joint communique after the meeting between the two foreign ministers, which uses a particular term that the talks were frank and constructive. I think it is important to understand when the joint statement after the discussions or debates or negotiations between two delegations of two different countries, if a joint statement mentions that the talks were frank, usually it means that there were major differences, and it also perhaps indicates that the differences were sort of irreconcilable. And looking at the situation along the line of factual control in Ladakh area of India, it is not really surprising that the talks must have been frank and constructive. Earlier in an interview given to a newspaper, External Affairs Minister of India S. Jaishankar had stated that the situation on the line of actual control is really tense and it requires to be resolved by deep political conversation. These tensions along the LAC, as all of us know by now, started sometime around in the month of May, when the Chinese troops took a provocative action, or let us call it a proactive action, along the Pangong Tso, the Pangong Lake, on the northern side of the Pangong Lake, which is along the line of actual control between the two countries. It escalated further with the standoff between the forces of the two countries in the Galwan Valley in the months of July. And the focus is now back on the Pangong Tso, Pangong Lake, because of the Indian troops movement which took place at the end of August, at the end of the last month, and this movement has taken place on the southern bank of the Pangong Lake. Since July, since August, the military commanders of the two sides have been talking to each other continuously. There have been agreements to disengage along the line of actual control as well. However, on certain points of the LAC, it has been observed that the Chinese are quite reluctant to disengage, and they have not been able to vacate the posts which they were expected to vacate by now. So, will the talks between the two foreign ministers held in Moscow last night yield any results on ground? Will they change the situation on the line of actual control? It remains to be seen. It is very difficult to predict anything at the moment. So, if we are looking at a way forward, India will have to follow something like a two-pronged policy, engage the world on the one hand and be firm on the line of actual control on the other. If you see some of the actions on the part of India in last 3 or 4 days, I think it's becoming quite clear that India is serious about engaging other countries, engaging with the other countries in the world, especially with the friendly countries in the world. So, what has happened? Just yesterday, we have seen the induction of the Rafale aircraft, the fighter aircraft which were long due to be inducted into the Indian Air Force. Finally, they arrived in July and now they have been operationalized. They were inaugurated in the Indian Air Force in the presence of Defense Minister of India as well as his counterpart from France. In the ceremony, both the countries have pledged their friendship with each other, and the French Defense Minister pledged the solidarity of France with India. Just a couple of days before that, there was a news of trilateral talks between Japan, Australia and India. This was the first time secretary level talks were held between the three countries, and the tripartite talks have been unique in the sense that the three countries have pledged for, at the end of the meeting, peaceful, secured, prosperous and rules based Indo-Pacific region. It is important to take note of a couple of things as far as this trilateral agreement is concerned. First of all, France is involved, and it is perhaps the first European country to be involved in the Indo-Pacific region, and because it also has certain territories in the Indian Ocean region, its involvement in the Indian Ocean region, which is a broader Indo-Pacific region, is completely legitimate. So, France's involvement in Indo-Pacific region and its friendship with countries like Australia and India, both of whom are Indo-Pacific powers, and thus the three countries pledging for, among other things, rules based Indo-Pacific is an important thing, because the hint is perhaps at China, and the Indo-Pacific region, if at all any country is seen to be disturbing the rules based order in this region, is perhaps China. So, the tripartite agreement bears well for India. And then towards the end of the era of Shinzo Abe as the Prime Minister of Japan, who has recently stepped down as the Japanese Prime Minister because of his own ill health, probably that is the last agreement he has sat together with Prime Minister Modi of India. When I say sat together, probably that is a virtual meeting, because both the leaders in fact spoke over the telephone with each other, and the pact was signed by their respective representatives in New Delhi. They have signed something known as the Acquisition and Cross Servicing Agreement, or ACSA, the AXA, and this agreement allows the defense forces of both Japan and India to use each other's facilities for servicing, replenishment and other things. This again is an important agreement because both countries are Indo-Pacific powers, and as far as this agreement is concerned, the navies of, or the naval forces of India as well as Japan will benefit out of it, and again the concern is for Indo-Pacific region, and thus we can see overall, as far as the Indo-Pacific region is concerned, India has been strengthening its ties with countries like old friends like Australia and Japan, and getting on board a new friend like France as far as the Indo-Pacific region is concerned. So, the Quad is being reinforced, and there are other agreements as well as far as the Indo-Pacific region, and what it implies on the ground is that India has been looking at networking countries, creating a network of the countries, taking advantage of the fact that for some reason today, and everybody knows what the reason is, because of the pandemic, if there is world opinion that is going against China, taking advantage of that, and thus these old friendships of India are being reinforced across the Indo-Pacific region. So, this is one part of the two-pronged policy that I was talking initially, engage the world. And the second part, of course, is be firm on the line of actual control. One has to look at the action taken by the Indian armed forces in the southern bank of the Pangong Tso, or the Pangong Lake, just towards the end of the month of August. Sometime on 28th or 29th of August, maybe midnight and early morning, 28th, 29th of August, it was later declared that, and these are the words in which the particular action was actually described by the statement given by the Indian Armed Forces, that the Indian forces took a preemptive action in order to prevent a proactive Chinese move, which means that the Indian forces perhaps got a news of a proactive Chinese news, meaning thereby some move by the Chinese forces to alter the positions along the LAC, and in order to prevent the Chinese from doing that, the Indian forces have taken that action. And what is that action? There are two things which have happened since 29th of August until about 2 days back. So, the first thing that happened was on the south bank of the Pangong Tso, where the Indian forces have moved to occupy a height, a position on a height, which is known as the Black Top. Sometimes it is also called the Kala Top by the Indian army men. They have occupied this little plateau along the southern bank of the Pangong Tso, which gives them the presence from the south bank of Pangong Tso to Rechinla, which is another pass linking two parts of the Aksai Chin area. But what is more important is they get a view of, by sitting on the Black Top, the Indian armed forces get a view of the Spangur Gap, which had been very crucially important during the 1962 war also. They get a view of the Spangur Gap, from where there is a possibility of China entering into the Indian side of the line of actual control. They also get a view of what is going on the Chinese side of the LAC, and they now sit at a height where they can see very clearly the Chinese base from where the activities on the southern bank of Pangong Tso are being carried out. In addition to that, there is a news that Indian forces have also occupied the ridge line of the finger 3 on the northern bank of Pangong Tso. Now, what had happened earlier was the Chinese troops who were supposed to disengage from finger 4 back towards finger 6, 7, 8, and they had refused to do so even after reaching an agreement among the military commanders, have now occupied the ridge height of finger 4. Because of that, the Indian forces have now moved to the ridge height of finger 3, and now they are sitting at the top, on the top of that finger, whereby once again, as the some of the news that appears, they can see the area that is occupied by the Chinese. So, they are at a height, just as the Chinese are now at a height, and they can see the entire area up to finger 1 in the entire northern bank of Pangong Tso. The Indian forces who are occupying finger 3 can now see the Chinese part of the Pangong Tso stretching up to the finger 8 as well. And thus, what the situation that we have at the moment along the Pangong Tso is on both the banks, northern as well as the southern bank, forces of China and India are from each, at a distance of a few meters between each other. It is believed that between finger 3 and 4, the distance is not more than say 600, 700 meters between each other. So, the two forces are now not only eyeball to eyeball, but they have increased their presence in numbers as well as the artillery support. So, the Chinese have more numbers as well as the Indian armed forces have more numbers, both on the northern bank and the southern bank of the Pangong Lake. This is the second thing as far as the two-pronged strategy is concerned. While the External Affairs Minister Mr. Jaishankar was holding talks with Wang Yi, his Chinese counterpart in Moscow, he already knew that the Indian armed forces have occupied these positions along the Pangong Lake. And the point that I am trying to make here is the fact that when the foreign minister is speaking to the Chinese foreign minister, he is speaking from the position of strength and not from the position of weakness. It is true that the two countries will have to disengage. It is true that the two countries cannot afford a war at this time. It is also true that they have to somehow find out a way to more peace and less clashes along the line of actual control. However, yielding to the pressure that was being built by China since the month of May may not really be or may not have really been a good idea. Diplomatic talks have taken place between the two countries and they may well lead to disengagement. However, the talks have taken place. I mean, it is not just Foreign Minister Jaishankar. Earlier, along the sidelines of four days before Jaishankar spoke to Wang Yi, there was a meeting between the Defence Minister of India as well as the Defence Minister of China along the sidelines of the SCO Defence Ministers meeting. And thus, the Foreign Minister as well as the Defence Minister of India have been speaking to their Chinese counterparts in the last 4 or 5 days. However, it has been ensured that before they start talking politically or before there are diplomatic negotiations with China, the situation on ground is not adverse for India. It is certainly not a position of weakness, but it is a kind of a stalemate from where the diplomatic talks have now taken on. External Affairs Minister Jaishankar has made clear that for the tensions to de-escalate, disengagement of the two armed forces is the first step. And in order to ensure that both the countries disengage, it is very important that India stays firm and India actually, shows the resolve on ground. So, at the end of it, let me say that if there is any way forward as far as the tensions on the line of actual control is concerned, diplomacy on the one hand and resolve on ground on the other is the actual way forward. Thank you for listening.
Now be the first to know about the latest updates on our new news app. Go on your Android or iOS, search for HW News Network. Download our app, choose the language you prefer to get updates in, and be up to date with the latest news.
If you like this video, please share it and we would love to hear your comments in the comments section down here. Also, please do like our Facebook page and follow us on Twitter to get minute-to-minute news updates. For more such shows and videos, subscribe to our YouTube channel.